Good evening, everybody. The Old Wolf with you again for another episode of the Witch and Wolf Wisdom. It is July 19th, 2022, 8:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Coming at you live from Rochester, New York. I am here, as always, and to the left, we have...
The witch! Woohoo!
Wow, you almost fucked up that cue.
No, because I
couldn't shut you up before, but now you got nothing to say.
I'm sharing out. I'm doing shit.
Doing that social media
I'm
thing.
hitting the share button, and the share button, and the share button, and the share button, and the share button some more. So people know, hey, it's on like Donkey Kong.
Very cool. Listen, thanks everybody again for joining us. If you're coming out live, if you're listening to us on a delay, or if you come back and you check us out at some other time. Again, as always, the views, expressions, thoughts, etc., expressed are mine. Sometimes the witches, but yeah, we own our shit. So there's that. Everything that we do, again, from a very simple context. We do not put this out as a paid thing, so regardless if you're joining us on Facebook or if you're joining us on YouTube, hey, enjoy it. Send us your feedback. We'd love to hear from you. As always, I like to start the shows with the people that we call family, that are in our circle, that support us, and in turn, we try and support them.
Gotta love the family we
Yes. And I always start off with my sister, Ashley Hart. Heart's Creations. Amazing. She's the dream catchers with intention. And again, we have them, you know what I mean? Many of them, you were saying.
I was going to say, you can go anywhere and buy these like store-made dream catchers. These things that, you know, a machine just kind of throws together and there's nothing special about it. Yeah, it looks cute, it looks pretty, whatever. But it doesn't do anything. It's just a pretty little piece of art. When you have ones that are made by Ashley Hart, she asks you, she's like, what's going on with you? What do you need this for? Especially if you're having one that's custom made. And then she puts the magic into it with the intentions that you need, and make sure that that it has things that you like, want, and need in there. And when you have to hang it up on your wall, holy shit, that shit works.
Yes, indeed. And that's the best way to define it. My sister Ashley, she has real magic, you know, and that's something I think, if you're going to dance within these elements, that's kind of fucking important.
Right.
So
very important.
Check her out, Hearts Creations, www.facebook.com/Hearts Creation, and that's HARTS-Creation. For those of you that are, well, listen, for those of you that are actually just listening to us and not actually watching, I do the podcast. I mean, very rarely do I actually come out live per se, video-wise, but, you know, we do music videos, we do graphical stuff, we do fucked up memes, we'll do flowcharts, and sometimes we'll crack out a whiteboard and we'll lay it out just how it is, or at least from our perspective of how it is. So again, check her out, Hearts Creations. Now again, I'm going to kind of dance through a couple of these. Mystical Moons, Suzanne, dear friend of ours, has been supportive not only of what we do, but of the community in general. A lot of really cool things that, again, she has real magic. She actually believes in what she's doing, and she actually gives a shit. She has Facebook.com, Mystical Moons Live, and you can check her out at mysticalmoons.com. And speak of the Ashley, Ashley Hart.
Talking about
you always come in after, like I did your promo, and now you come on. But yeah, there she is. She's a real person. She's not like a fucking Facebook bot. Okay?
No, she's dream catchers with intention.
Right. You can actually talk to her and say, hey, listen, this is what I'm looking for. These are, the nightmares sometimes, because a lot of people associate dream catchers with catching nightmares, but dream catchers also are a dynamic that can help focus better dreams. It can help us remember, understand our dreams. They can be used, as has been with other cultures through time, as a dynamic, as a ward. It can carry many, many different ritualistic elements. And again, She knows what the fuck she's doing. So, yeah, why do you want to use car salesman when you can actually get a real witch? I got a witch.
You got a witch.
So, you know, trust the witch.
I don't put you in the boot at all that often.
Not that often.
Just every so often.
But again,
I want to play with you. What? Did I say that out loud?
Yeah, she said that out loud.
Oh, that must be one of those.
So definitely, again, check out Suzanne. Just mention the witch, and you'll get a 25% discount off your first order.
Yay!
Now, also, we have a couple of dear friends who do similar types of things, but again, they have a lot of really unique dynamics. So it isn't like they're both just selling the same things. Well, we got Bobby and Sherry with Moonbeams. And let me tell you, the two of them, again, they have magic. They're not perfect. None of us are fucking perfect. We don't, ride around in some fucking magic bubble of superiority or like, ha, 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 ha.
Wah, ha, ha, ha.
No, they're real people with real lives. And again, they actually give a shit. You know what I mean? So they take, yes, they do.
They do.
Yes, they do.
I was thinking you said that I gave a shit for a minute.
Oh, well, you can speak for yourself. I know better than to try and speak. And actually, listen, we love you as well, too, hon. It's, again, the context that we talk about all the time, strength in numbers. Simply put, if we don't take care of each other, who the fuck is going to do it? So we all do what we can, where we can, to the degrees we can. But the same analogy with Sherry and Bobby. Reach out to them. You know what I mean? They can do any number of custom elements, a lot of really cool dynamics, and, honest, real magic that's put into this. So, mention, Lady Shiya, and you too will get a 20% discount off your first order with them. And again, even if it's just something simple, get it for a friend, maybe your niece, maybe you're into that kind of thing. The little things that we do. And it's an important dynamic. You know what I mean?
But it's important when you support small businesses. You're like directly supporting somebody who,
Amen, sister.
To a corporation. You're giving to somebody who that's their groceries. They're buying groceries with that money. They're paying their electric bill with that money. It's not going into some, big corporation pocket thing.
No corporations involved. Gary, brother, good to see you. Thanks for joining us,
buddy.
Just again, Gary will be joining us on a future podcast. He dances within a lot of these elements, and he has some interesting dynamics. I know you and he were talking the other afternoon.
A great discussion the other day about being one of the things that I really love about Gary, and we're both in very much agreement on, is that it is important to keep an open mind. It is important to always be willing to hear, even if you don't agree. To listen and to understand where others are coming from. And that's something that he and I found very much in common when we were talking about things.
Well, it is one of the truest elements within empathy. In order to really feel, okay, you need to listen. You need to step outside of your own dynamic. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And again, this can be used for good or evil. This is unfortunately the flip side is weaponized empathy. But it is incredibly important, you know what I mean, to actually listen, to be open-minded, as you say. And again, you don't have to necessarily agree, but sometimes just that framework we can now understand, we can relate, and then we can find ways around the things that will, again, let's be honest, normally keep us separated. There's
a difference between listening and agreeing. I had a friend for a long time that would look at me and he's like, "You're not listening." And I'm like, "No, I'm actually listening. I just don't agree." There is a difference.
Yes, there is.
I'm allowed to listen to you and hold space and understand where you're coming from. I don't have to agree with you. But we can agree to disagree and still be friends and have the conversation.
Well, I mean, again, that's a two-way street that requires somebody, obviously they have to be not only willing, but I believe, and here is, the simple truth sometimes, they have to be able. Not everybody is at that place in their life.
That is true.
Not everybody has the type of knowledge and understanding, experience, whatever you want to call it, to be able to interact
And I have to say, one of the things about empaths is we always expect that everybody should. Because we can have that capacity as an empath. We think that others should also have that capacity and or see life in that way. And then we are shocked and mystified when we are treated differently than we treat others. But they don't treat us with that same love and care.
Well, I mean, again, dynamic is, it's like trying to have a conversation, with a banana, expectations, they'll fuck you every time. But last not least, my brother, Tony Rodriguez, founder and all around, I guess you could say,
excellent dude.
Yeah, excellent dude.
Excellent dude.
But he's the founder of the Under My Skin tattoo shop in Atlantic Highlands, New Jersey, world-renowned shop. He's a world-renowned tattoo artist.
Yes.
He's also the heart and soul of the band, the band Broken Past. And he's also an entrepreneur. He has the Papo Sticker Company. Papo Sticker Company is basically, you can create any type of dynamical marketing and or I guess you could call it souvenir type of thing. Like if you wanted, a coffee mug with your dog's picture on it, or if you wanted a bumper sticker with, some crazy saying, or if you wanted a hat or a t-shirt or any number of dynamics, Tony has the ability to translate all of that stuff into anything that you could imagine. And he does it in a framework, to be really blunt, that isn't exactly, it's not that he doesn't make a couple of dollars, but in comparison to everybody else out there, there are very, very few places, literally very few places, you can just get a one-off mug made without it costing you $100, $200 fucking dollars.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Tony's the kind of guy that, can put something together for you for a couple of bucks. You know what I mean? He actually cares about what he does. He believes that these are the dynamics that create memories. He loves sharing his art, be it through music, be it through the Papo Sticker Company, or again, as an artist, as a tattoo artist. You know what I mean? So he's, again, the type of person that has actual magic. You know what I mean? He actually gives a shit. And no coincidence, you know what I mean? Again, he's a single dad. He's the head founder of a long-running, charity organization in Central Jersey that myself and my son belong to, that the witch has been casually getting involved with. Those of you that follow the podcast know that there are certain repeating cast of characters. My brother, Chris Scheringer, we call him Fat Ass. He's a board member. He's a guy I've known for years. Somebody, again, that actually gives a shit about other people, that goes out of his way to do things, and again, even stranger things. People that actually do the things that they say. Wow, how crazy is that? I mean, again, I say that sarcastically, but it is an important dynamic. You teach a parent to recite fucking scripture. It doesn't mean anything without the actions to make it tangible. So these are some of the people that actually do. They walk the walk. They actually give back. And more times than not, and I'll use my brother Tony as an example, end up on the short end of the stick. He gives much, much, much more than he fucking receives in any context. Now, granted, he's blessed because he's worked really hard to build his tattoo shop, to build his band and all the dynamics that go with it. But trust me when I say, and I know this guy many years, he's fought for every fucking inch of it. All right. Yep. None of it was handed to him. Okay. He didn't come in with the silver spoon, and I don't begrudge anybody that has a silver spoon, but...
You know what we call it in Texas?
But he actually, again, walks the walk.
We call it in Texas, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps.
Okay. You have to throw some Texas shit in there?
I have to throw some Texas shit in there. We're on Stranger Things.
Damn. Well, yeah.
Get much
fucking even Stranger Things.
Right now, okay?
So, yes. Tonight's episode I called Even Stranger Things because, let's face it.
Hey, Crystal.
We are being inundated with all kinds of fucking crazy wackadoo shit. And it's coming at us from all kinds of different angles, all kinds of different ways. Now, the word stranger is one of those unique words. And again, it was one of the reasons I chose it in that thing. Not to bogue off the television show, which, to be absolutely blunt, I've never even watched a fucking single episode of it. But pop culture being what it is, it's like, fuck it. You know what I mean? Same thing with the Scientology. I always go after them. What are you going to do? You know what I mean?
Much stranger than
hey, it's a beautiful thing about living. You know, one of the beautiful things about living here in the United States is that we actually do have a thing called freedom of speech.
Oh my God.
Okay?
We still have that.
And especially within the framework of sarcasm and comedy. Can you tell I'm being sarcastic, Scientologist? I'll do it again. You know, we have to some degrees, I think, laugh at this shit. Otherwise, it's fucking, it's Cthulhu, man. It's like the mouth of madness. You'll just lose your fucking mind. You know, I mean, and it's unfortunate that we have to kind of dance it that way, but.
Can I just say at this point, I'm almost wanting to root for Cthulhu?
Well, listen.
I'm just saying.
You know, I am not a fan of the old gods. You know, it's really cool in like a Todd McFarlane comic book or, a fucking,
Shannon,
a scary story.
Who chased you, Shannon? I need to know this.
Of course, they chased me downtown. I told their priest not a good way to come by stalking.
Oh, the Scientologists.
Yeah, listen.
I didn't know they had priests. What do they have?
I don't know what
What do you get when you sign over?
Me personally, I call them vampires. That's vampires? Listen, I think it's a good word as any.
I think that's kind of demeaning to
They're
vampires.
fucking undead, and the only way they can live is by literally sucking the life out of other innocent people.
I would think they're more ghouls than vampires. Vampires are kind of cool.
Nah, listen, ghouls are just a little bit more victim of their. Ghouls are more victims of their circumstances. Vampires, they make a cognitive choice.
Yeah.
Listen, Carrie's like Cthulhu has my vote. Listen, I can't get behind anything that basically, its foundation is like complete madness. Now, listen, I get it.
It's probably more sane than our current world.
No. I listen. We're conditioned. Granted, shit can be crazy, and there's even stranger things. But trust me when I say, and I've read Lovecraft, and no coincidence, I was watching a documentary about Lovecraft yesterday.
Yeah.
That was really kind of interesting, and, I'll bring some of it up later again. But the mythos, the world that he created, definitely is not friendly. There's no fucking happy ending. There's no hope. There's no love. There's no joy. I can't get behind that. Against it. I'm all for a good fucking scary story. I've been a Stephen King fan since I was a kid. You know what I mean? I loved old horror as a child. You know what I mean? I would stay up to catch those, back in the day when there was only 3 channels on the black and white TV, to catch that original version of fucking Frankenstein with Boris Karloff just, you know what I mean? It's fucking great. You know what I mean?
I watched them in secret.
Well,
once I had my own TV, I watched some of those.
But the analogy is there's a part of us, I think, that likes to be scared. It's reflective of the human condition. It's reflective of emotional experience. I mean, don't get me wrong.
We like the endorphins.
I don't want to get scared to the degree of like a Devil's Rejects with fucking Rob Zombie sticking a chainsaw up my asshole. That's not the kind of experience that I need to have in person, okay? I'm cool with just visualizing that one and casually walking away. Just not for me.
I heard a story about a place just outside of New York, or between New York and New Jersey. They have a Ren Fair there. And I heard a story that they used to have like a haunted house thing there, and they would jump out and scare people with the fake chainsaws and stuff. And then the New Yorkers and the New Jerseyers that would go there, New Jerseyans, I don't know what you call you guys, but would get scared, and their first instinct is to punch the actor in the face. So they had to shut that down.
Listen, that's an honest dynamic. When you catch people off guard like that, sometimes the conditioning. And I can absolutely relate to that. And I will share that story in a moment. However, all hail the Beaver Queen. She has arrived. My sister Suzanne. Hey, hon. Hope is all groovy in your world. Suzanne is, again, one of our core
I'd say inner
people.
circle, yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
inner circle, definitely. She has earned, through many years of pain and torment, the hard-fought title of Beaver Queen.
Yes.
Okay, and let me tell you, you don't want to fuck with a pissed-off
Beaver Queen.
Okay, you don't. It ends up badly no matter how you slice it. It may not happen today, it may not be tomorrow,
but it will happen.
But it will go bad. Really bad. I love you, hon.
I love what Crystal says. She doesn't go to haunted houses because she has the fight, then flight reaction. She calls it
the stun and run.
Fuck
yeah.
That.
No, listen, it's honest.
I love it. Stun and I'm going to use it. Stun and run.
Listen, yeah. I don't do those hardcore ones for that same dynamic. And again, to get to the story that I was going to share, it actually almost happened. Was it a week or two? We went to the Rochester Public Market because the witch is a big fan of organic honey, especially organic honey that comes from our region here in upstate New York. It helps her with her allergies, and it's something that's been documented through thousands of years of use. But it's one of the things that she does, and again, it helps support local farms in our area. So we went down to the Rochester Public Market, and it's filled with fucking people. So right off the bat, this fucking old wolf,
You've got your guard up.
Yeah, I'm just like, people,
up.
I'm just praying that nobody gets too close to me and touches me. But of course, people are just shoving on by in their generic fucking apathy. So I'm holding it in. I'm trying to be the good wolf. My witch wants to do some window shopping. No, you just got to be silent. No. You tell your shit afterward. Okay, my fucking story, you don't get to fucking interrupt it.
All right.
So here we go. So I'm trying my best to be the good wolf. Because she likes to, she's browsing, doing the window shopping thing. She's just, I hate to say it, she's being a woman. And she's entitled to, because she is a woman.
I am.
So she's doing that. So I'm just, again, just okay, just hang in there, Wolf, you know what I mean? I'm doing the internal dialogues, I'm playing music soundtracks, I'm doing little fantasy scenarios where I've got like, fucking powers and you know what I mean? People are just being vaporized and I'm keeping it all internal. And then we go into one of the buildings. And the buildings are where some of the higher end shops, they have like, homemade Polish sausages and, homemade breads and, all kinds of specialty stuff. But it's fucking tight. There's people fucking everywhere. Okay. And I'm hanging in there. I'm just like, all right, So I turn my back and I hear a voice and I don't recognize that voice. And all of a sudden, a big black arm comes up over to embrace me. Now, again, I don't want to convey this to sound in any dynamic that I'm racist or I have a problem with black people. I don't. I love people regardless. However, when I'm in a public situation and I'm already triggered and something that looks like it belongs on the body of a fucking, a gorilla, reaches out to embrace me, my first reaction, the fist was made, and I literally pulled back to swing. And then as I turned, staring in my face, was my brother from another mother that lives across the street from us, a guy named Kevin. And he's just smiling at me. And he knows, he can see it. He's like, no, it's all good, it's all good. I hate to, I have to admit it, you know what I mean? I have been conditioned to certain degrees within certain dynamics, and unfortunately, that trigger, whether I like it or not, sometimes comes into play. Now, I hugged him, I was like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry. I was like, listen, I apologize, because I knew, I could see it in his eyes. He had to be thinking, he's like, this motherfucker's gonna punch me in my face. I didn't.
Now, context, we spent hours on the front porch talking with Kevin.
Oh, no, listen, Kevin, I say this in all seriousness. He's my brother from another mother. He's a great guy. He's a great human being.
You left out the distractionary element that I was over buying some fudge, and you were talking to these people with the oil at that point.
Oh,
and
that's right. That's right. Right.
Deep philosophical conversation about certain political
they
things
were
over in the Middle East.
Specifically, they were importing olive oil from the West Bank to support specific dynamics of a couple of schools that were out there. And it was a framework because of, unfortunately, the political dynamics between Israel and Palestine. And I'm not going to get into that tonight.
So, yes. So I'm over there. Heaven sees me. He comes over, gives me a hug. Hey, little sis, how you doing? We're standing there talking for a bit. And the wolf turns to and makes eye contact with me because he realizes I'm not standing beside him. His first priority is to identify where I'm at and make sure that I'm safe because he's the alpha wolf. And he wants to see, okay, she's nearby. I see her. He locked eyes with me and he's walking towards me. And at that point, Kevin reaches around to give him a big hug.
My sister Suzanne says it very well.
Funny.
I swing. I am not proud of it. Okay. Mm-hmm. I've worked very hard over the years to be cognizant of it. So I again try and do what I can to avoid that dynamic because it isn't fair. I own it. It's me. It's my conditioning. It's my trigger. It's my traumas.
Yep.
But sometimes the only way that we can deal with them is talk about them in a humorous context. So again, check out my brother Tony, BrokenPathNewJersey.com, thePapoStickerCompany.com, and of course, UnderMySkinTat2.com. Tony's, again, he's a world-renowned tattoo artist. Anybody that's into that context, anybody that's into that scene, I tell you what, he's definitely a guy to go get artwork from.
Well, I've made a decision on that.
Ah, yes, we are going down next week.
I know. I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say my decision is my very next tattoo will be done.
Yes, yes, indeed. So check him out. So the final thing I'm going to talk about, and one of the things I'd like everybody to throw out there, I don't always get the opportunity to engage directly, but I've mentioned it before and I will continue. I enjoy it. So in the theme of even stranger things, please, to whatever degree you're comfortable and willing, within reason, okay? And that reason, is pretty wide, but yeah. Share your even stranger things. What's something that's fucking strange that you've encountered or within the perception? Because I'm a big fan of, again, that dynamic of translation. Strange is a word that has many variations, depending upon who you talk to and depending upon the context. I'm fucking strange. I'm proud of it. Okay? I am. I won't lie. I'm scared sometimes by quote-unquote normal.
Yeah.
Normal doesn't make sense, especially if you live in the world that we live in. I don't see how anybody really could be normal. Now, again, I say that sarcastically. Normal is relevant, again, depending upon who you're talking to. I'm sure within the circle jerk that is known as Scientology, there are a couple of vampires that are like, hey, it's okay to steal people's lives and drain them of everything they have under a bullshit pretense and context, I mean, who's going to care? I'm sure that conversation happens. I'm sure someplace, somewhere, there's a bunch of Nazis all jerking off to Nazi things that are, debating, how Hitler was misunderstood and was really a good guy.
Oh, my God.
That's fucking stranger.
That is really stranger.
To me. Even stranger. So, yes, please. Share those dynamics to whatever degree you're comfortable, and we'll talk about them if you'd like. If not, I'll just talk about random shit. But one of the random things, well, not so random I'm going to talk about, is the Under My Skin for Life Arts for Autism event, September 17th, 2022, in Port Monmouth, New Jersey. Jersey Shore.
Woo-woo.
Translation. Gonna be a lot of really cool shit. Myself and some guys that I've known over the years and my son are going to be performing under the I guess you could say the ghost name, Pocket Full of Wolves. That's us. Tony and Broken Pass are going to be playing. There's going to be a whole bunch of bands, the Knuckleheads, Mark Meyer, Elliot Mayer, Solos Borges, Blue Red Roses, Legion, and last but not least, Spawn Ranch, who, they're a metal band that plays a lot down in the, again, Jersey Shore, Jackson area. They do a lot of stuff with another guy who's a board member, known for a few years. They call him the Minister of Metal. Another Frank. The other Frank. Yes. And he puts on shows, you know what I mean, within the framework of trying to continue the local music scene, which is something, again, I'm going to do at least a full podcast on as we get closer to the event. But it's a free event. I mean, the food's not free, but the food will be cheap. I guarantee you that. Not cheap in quality, but, cheap. You're not gonna pay $20 for a fucking cheeseburger and a water. Okay.
Now, what about a $5 shake?
Yeah, I don't know that we're gonna have $5 shakes, but hey, there's gonna be a lot of other cool shit. There's gonna be wrestling, okay? Samuane and those guys are gonna come down and they're gonna put on a wrestling show, okay? The Rat, WRAT, which is the Jersey Shore's rock station. Okay, the definitive rock station. They're going to be down giving away some swag and shit like that. Jose Hernandez Jr., who's been a friend of the foundation and the cause for many years, as well as Gene Snitsky, they're going to be down, you know what I mean, doing those photo ops, hanging out. These are really great guys, you know what I mean? They're family men. They actually give a shit. So they give up their time, and of their fame to help promote not only awareness, but to help raise money. Because again, in the simplest of dynamics, if we don't take care of each other, who the fuck is going to do it? Now, we have been, for the last couple of years, the foundation has been specifically targeted, this event, to support Oasis Farms, which is a school for autistic children and young adults down in, I believe it's Middlesex, Monmouth County. But they actually do something. You know what I mean? They actually try and help people, families within the dynamic. And these are the important things, I believe, within the communities. When people talk about, well, what can we do? Will you help out the things that are going on in your backyard? Don't get me wrong. Doesn't mean you can't support national causes or even global causes. But sometimes the dynamic needs to be about taking care of the people around us. So, Listen, it's a great event. We'd love everybody to come out that's able to come out.
Hear something stranger about this event, like that the Empire is going to be showing up?
Oh.
I heard something about
funny
that.
You should mention that.
I heard the Empire has an interest in that.
Well, again, these guys, yes, they are the 501st. And they have been a long-running Star Wars fan group. They come out with all the high-end stuff. As you can see in the picture, these guys don't fuck around. They put on a show. Let me tell you, I have interacted with them. My son has interacted with them. They are great with the kids. They are incredibly generous and humble in what they do. And it's a lot of fun. It's a family event. You know what I mean? So it's designed. There's going to be vendors. There's going to be other things. We're going to have kind of the raffle stuff and the auction stuff. We, every year, have a bunch of, signed rock memorabilia from people that we know, and I'm not going to drop names. If you want to, come out, check it out, that's the way to do it. But there will be interesting collector stuff, okay? You can check us out online under My Skin for Life Foundation, okay? Gladly accept any help. We are registered, okay, and certified 501c3, aka a nonprofit organization.
Yeah.
All the money that we do goes back to exactly what it's designed to do. Nobody that volunteers within the organization takes a salary. Okay. Everything literally that's done is done from the dynamic truly of volunteer/donation. So yes, that will be going on September 17th, 2022. I have another related
stranger thing.
Please.
So I had always heard that Jersey was like the armpit of the universe. I mean, literally, the armpit of the
You're really going to go back to this? All right, listen, you got to do you, so go ahead.
I mean, I've just got to say this because it, to me, was very strange. There was a cognitive dissonance that happened here when I was introduced to the real New Jersey, as opposed to like Trenton, New Jersey, or, you know, Newark, or like that.
Listen, some places, unfortunately, like those, like they get a bad rap because, again...
So, the stranger thing is, Jersey's fucking beautiful.
Well, listen, like most places, there are good and bad. You know what I mean? You go to, you go to Elizabeth and Newark, and you've got fucking hundreds of refineries and chemical this and fucking crackheads jumping out of concrete debris, and you know what I mean? Yeah, it's fucked up.
And there's that park.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of beauty, and there's a lot of old history. Some of it goes back to, to the founding of our country and before.
And Atlantic City's a freaking blast with the boardwalk. I love
Atlantic City's kind of one of those double-edged things. You catch Atlantic City on a bad day and it can be fucking weird.
Well,
but
we caught it on a good day because it wasn't.
Well, because there was nobody down there.
Well, you say nobody. There were people there. It just wasn't packed.
It was just a bunch of old people just waiting to die.
I mean, listen. I'm talking about.
Let's call it for what it is.
And then doing the. I mean, I had a blast doing go-karts with Monkey. And,
oh, yeah. No. That was all beautiful. Sorry, I'm talking about the trauma element. That was
talking about the trauma element of the casino. Let it go. Let it go.
All right, so the first one we got up here, of course, the Beaver Queen hits it. She doesn't know about the strangest thing she's seen. That's a tough one. Well, strange is strange, random. But here it is. She says, here locally, 2 men were just arrested for moving a dead girl from a hotel room and putting her in a storage unit, and she's mummified now. Strange and cruel in her opinion. Yeah, definitely got to say a little bit fucked up. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, I think right now, you could probably pull up any even minor city in the United States, and there's some ding-a-ling shit where
I heard one where the daughter kept her mom in a freezer for like 2 months because she didn't want to stop getting her mom's checks, disability checks or Social Security checks.
Listen, again, Jeffrey Dahmer used to fucking snatch up people and cut them up and fucking eat them. Well, you know what I mean? That's fucking even stranger.
Her mom just died of natural causes, and she didn't want to give up her livelihood. So freezer.
That to me is a simple human dynamic. It's just like, well, I need the old woman's check, so if we pretend that she's not dead, maybe nobody will notice. Yeah.
The neighbors finally noticed.
Well, that smells it.
No, I mean, she's in the freezer. She was frozen solid. They just noticed they hadn't seen her for 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, you can only get away with certain things for so long. But hey, D.B. Cooper, he's still somewhere floating around out there. Maybe. Maybe nothing at all.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, he was a famous guy who, robbed a whole bunch of money and then supposedly jumped off an airplane and fucking disappeared.
Oh, that one. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So, Suzanne brings up an interesting dynamic that I'll have to ask you. Speaking of stranger things, you have worked in the storage industry before. What's the strangest thing you've seen there?
Oh, well, I didn't actually. Well,
because I don't know that you can top a dead body that's mummified in a storage unit. I think that's pretty
listen, I've seen some fucked up things in storage before. You know what I mean? At one point, we literally had a crack whore living in a storage unit that was blowing guys.
In the storage unit?
In the storage unit.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she was running her business out of a storage unit. She was living out of it. I mean, literally, she came in one day, brought her stuff, and again, within the framework dynamic, you don't want to judge somebody. You don't know what their story is. So it's like, all right, you know what I mean? You got all your shit. And to be honest, at the time, you know what I mean? There was a lot of stuff going on. So you don't want to really get into everybody's business.
Yeah.
But I had a beautiful thing called technology. And I had fucking security cameras all over the place. So one of the things that I used to periodically do was to go through said footage and just, you know, make sure nothing seems out of whack. Now, granted, in her particular case, I did have a couple of, we'll just call them red flags, you know, seeing her coming in and out with different color wigs, her basically, you know, running from her unit to the bathroom half naked, random people coming in and out of her, but the camera doesn't lie, you know what I mean? And, you know, some things once you see,
you can't unsee that.
You can't fucking unsee.
Oh.
Now, again, I won't lie. I initially had a small amount of compassion, you know, because obviously, for whatever reason, this is obviously not a good scenario. But I'm also a realist. And within a business context, it's like, yo, you can't have this. So myself and the guy who I worked with at the time, we both, because we wanted to have a witness.
Yeah.
We're like, there's no fucking way either one of us are going to attempt to address this
alone.
Well, because, listen, we're both white men.
Yeah.
Okay? So
you're canceled.
There's already a contract out on us by default.
Right?
And I'm not going to lie. You know what I mean? Neither one of us wanted to take the chance of it. You know what I mean? You know, if you're going to be honest, you're going to be honest about something. And it was an odd, strange dynamic. So we agreed, said, hey, listen, we'll approach this together. We'll approach it straight in numbers. So that way, again, you know, and we made sure that it was on camera as well, too.
On camera.
But here was the kicker. We tried to be really cool about it. Say, listen, you know, we're not trying to judge you, but you can't do this. So the first framework that we got was, no, we don't know what we're talking about. She doesn't do that, and gave us the, how dare you suggest it.
Right.
The guy I worked with was a little bit more, we'll say, blunt than I was. And his response, no, listen, he said it deadpan. He just looked at her. And he actually looked up at her because he's kind of a shorter guy. But he's a fucking madman. I love him. I'm not going to throw his name out there. I'm not going to throw him under the bus because he still works there. But he kind of just looked up at her in deadpan and said, honey, we have you on camera blowing multiple men. And she just stopped. Her jaw dropped. And then she launched into the most horrendous, ugly diatribe about how dare we, a bunch of old cracker-ass crackers, are basically taking advantage of her by recording her in her private space. Now, I'm not going to lie. I just started to laugh. Okay? As soon as somebody plays the cracker card on me, it's just like, you gotta laugh. You know what I mean? Because anybody that knows me knows I am the furthest thing from a fucking cracker.
True that.
Okay? So that being said, and you have to imagine, again, within the context of the scenario, because she was, we'll just say that she was of a darker complexion, a very darker complexion, with a really shitty blonde wig.
Oh, God.
Okay? And it was very obvious that either she was really fucking high on something or she was coming down off of being really fucking high. Because she was tweaking and shaking, foaming at the fucking mouth.
Oh, Jesus.
And just losing her fucking mind. And it literally took us, good 15, 20 minutes to just be like, listen, we don't give a fuck what you do, but you have to understand.
You can't do it here.
You can't live here. Okay? It says it in your lease. Okay? This is a storage facility. not a flop house, not a hotel. And surely you can't be blowing random people whenever you like.
Yep.
Okay? Long story short, after a little bit of back and forth and the whole legal context, we had to get, and again, ironically enough, we had to get our legal department involved.
Oh dear.
And the legal guy, well,
so she didn't leave after that?
No. Oh no. She was adamant and nobody was going to tell her what the fuck she could do. So we had to get our fucking legal department involved because now it is a legal context.
Yeah, because
you know what I mean? Well, that was our jobs. There was no fucking way, and he and I were both on the same page. There's no fucking way I was taking the heat for this stupidity. It was not in my contract.
Yeah.
Nobody was paying me for that fucking shit. No fucking way. I care to a degree, but if you're so fucking unhinged and off the wall that, you're going to stand there and try and justify that shit, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm not going to waste my fucking time. So we had to get the legal department in, and then the story becomes even more convoluted. Because the first thing, the legal guy, and it's like, a suit in an office somewhere, it's like, well, how can you be sure that said behavior was actually occurring? And my buddy literally sent him the email because we have it on fucking videotape, you idiot.
He said that?
Well, we had sent that in the original communication.
Yes.
That we had video of this, that we've seen it, that, we didn't actually get right up there and, analyze the
veins on the
testicles of said personnel or analyze her fellatio skills. You know what I mean? It was really, we didn't want to be dealing with it at all. So finally, he's like, okay. Then now the problem becomes, and this is what our legal department says, well, you can't really send that to us because it could be constituted as pornography, and then da-da-da-da. And we're looking at each other, and we're reading the emails out loud as they come in. And we're just like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? So I can't send you the documentation that proves what we're saying because you are concerned that somehow this might be, transmitting pornography over interstate lines. Because we were in one state and the corporate office lawyers were in another, and it was just fucking insanity. And this shit went back and forth for over a month. And the woman just kept living there doing what she was doing. You know what I mean?
My God.
And it was a shit show, until finally somebody else, one of our customers, we assume, but somebody else filed a complaint. Supposedly, somebody was in there with their children during one of these episodes. Well, I don't know what was seen or heard. But, I feel pretty comfortable that, listen, I like pornography and it offended me. So,
oh, God.
I can't see how anybody else would have just been like, oh, well, that's no big deal. You know what I mean? Just, another Saturday afternoon in the storage industry.
If I'm bringing my kids somewhere.
That's just fucking ridiculous. Absolutely fucking ridiculous. Now, Suzanne also, and Crystal, thank you. You're right. The 501st is amazing. Incredible people, costuming. They are all about the magic. You know what I mean? And again, they do what they do to help raise awareness for a variety of different causes, to help raise money for a variety of different causes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're incredible and really glad that they'll be participating again this year. Veronica, great to see you. I'm glad that you were able to catch some of the podcasts. You do, everybody, again, everything is archived, so that way you can go back if you want, for whatever crazy, strange reason, if somehow, I have entertained you. And I try.
Are you not
entertained? Listen, I do. I try.
You do.
But you can always go back and you can watch it. We keep it archived, and we do it in the dynamic, so that way it's available for people for free.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Now, we're going to segue, I don't know if this is so much even Stranger Thing, but we don't always do these types of things. But as a kind of a courtesy to my sister Suzanne, who has given me so much content and comedy within the whole dynamic of her beaver asshole. Okay, I'm just saying, and those of you who don't know, you might have to come back another time for that story, because that's going to be my incentive. It's a great story.
It is a great story.
Listen, we were using it for a while, then we took a break, and now I'm going to tease Suzanne's beaver asshole story. Keep that in mind. Words have a meaning depending upon how they're structured. We heard Suzanne, and then beaver, and then the hairs on people's necks start, ooh, beaver, asshole. Asshole's a word. Oh, no.
Wait, beaver?
Oh, we're going down the dirt highway now.
Yep.
Story. Okay, so the complete context is Suzanne's beaver asshole story.
Yeah.
And again, it's probably maybe what you think it is, but not quite. I will leave
leave them hanging.
The audience to, hey, listen,
cliffhanger.
Make what you want of Suzanne's beaver, okay?
So
I love you, hon.
You want me to answer her question?
Yeah, she has it. I'm going to put the question, and you're going to do the thing.
Okay.
And her question is this: how do you know when Hecate, or am I pronouncing that correct?
It is one of the pronunciations. Yeah.
Okay. Is trying to contact you? She keeps getting her name popping up in songs, books. Her name just keeps running through her head, but she doesn't know anything about her at all. So as a educational context, and again, before you answer, I'm going to frame this because I think it's important, because it's storytelling time.
Okay.
I'm going to frame this behind this.
Yes.
Okay, right.
All right.
So we're going to get a little music in the background. All right, witch, you're on.
So basically, how do you know when a particular divinity is trying to contact you? Actually, what you're saying, you keep getting her name popping up in songs, books, and her name keeps running through your head, is probably a fairly good indication that you are being called towards the qualities of that god or goddess. Now, my personal belief is that all gods and all goddesses are all part of the great big old universal cosmos, and that we break them down into gods and goddesses with specific qualities and specific names so that we can either relate to them, we can look up to them and want to emulate them, or that we can learn from them as a patron deity. So the question here for you, Suzanne, isn't necessarily going to be if Hecate is reaching out to you, but what is the reasoning that she is reaching out to you? Hecate is, in many circles, known as the witch's goddess. She has 3 faces to her. Many people confuse her for the triple moon goddess, but Hecate's more about, personality. She has a few different personalities. One is super sweet, one is do no harm, take no shit, and one is fuck you, I won't do what you told me to.
So basically you're saying she's an Aries.
Basically, yes.
Okay, cool. I just want to clarify that. Please continue.
So, but she is also seen as the patron goddess of witches, because like Hecate, we can put on the whatever face we need to in the moment. If you fuck with us, you might get a hex. We generally hey, we're chill, we're cool, but we're not going to take any shit from you. Here's our boundaries. And then there's your inner circle. Let me nurture you and take care of you and everything. So, I mean, that she's coming there might be coming to you might be a call out towards your witchcraft journey, and that maybe you need to understand your faces and your way that you relate to the world, and deciding which face you want to show which person at which time.
That's a great analogy, and it applies, I think, at least in my opinion and my experience, to so many different things in our lives, because we do really by default many times have to. You know what I mean? You're going to a family gathering with the uncle who's just fucking annoying, but because great Aunt Linda's going to be there, everybody's got to hold the fucking line because that's just how it is. That's how it is in the family. So you'll go there and you'll put the, hey, I'm not going to be bothered by this mask on because that's what we feel compelled to do. That's what we believe that we have to do. Then there's the mask that we'll wear, and this is very, very common within what we do for a living, our job, our work, our careers.
Yeah.
Because there are certain dynamics, standards we'll call them, that are different socially versus within a framework of business. And as such, we may not necessarily like a particular thing, we may not even agree with the context, but we have to wear that mask. And you'll see that analogy. And the best analogy, I think, is anybody that works in any kind of retail context when you're dealing with the fucking dregs of humanity and, you know, people are just pulling out the full-blown Karen over a goddamn bag of potato chips, and you gotta smile and, yes, ma'am, here's your change. You know what I mean? Because we don't want to get fucking fired by telling this fucking crazy-ass Karen bitch to shove it up your fucking ass. I think everybody's had that moment. And I know my sister Suzanne has definitely had that moment because she works with people on an everyday basis. You know what I mean? Again, I'll paint you a scenario. Poor Suzanne. All she's trying to do is just, you know, take care of this belligerent, bitter woman's hair. Because she's a fucked up person. And no amount of hairstyling, no amount of hair color, no amount of anything is going to change the dynamic that she's a fucking ugly person. But Suzanne's going to do her best. And she's going to smile. And she's going to the best of our ability, salvage some humanity in this monster of portraying to be a human. Because that's what she does. Okay? Now, granted, knowing Suzanne, it isn't just because what she does. She actually has compassion. She has empathy. And empathy suggests to us that maybe if we just listen, maybe if we just try and understand, you know, maybe we can make a difference. But the sad reality is some people are just, they're fucking horrible. They're disgusting. They're bitter. They're broken. And again, I don't begrudge anybody coming back. But if we're going to be honest, especially in the framework of what we have to deal with on a daily basis, you have to wear fucking masks. You cannot go out there and just be like, eh.
No, you have to do what you got to do to put up your guard to protect yourself. You know, because you said there is a world full of Karens. There's a world full of narcissists. There's a world full of weaponized empaths that are out there, and they don't give a shit about you. They give only a shit about themselves. Well, and you got to turn around and have your boundaries.
That is taught and conditioned.
Yeah, it is.
You know, and any sales technique is basically about bullshitting your prospective client.
Yeah.
For the most part. You know what I mean?
You know,
there'll be pieces of truth. You know what I mean? Hey, look at this delicious cheeseburger. Don't you want to buy it? But when you actually get it, it's like, hey man, this tastes like donkey ass. They don't advertise that it's made from donkey ass. No. It just looks like a really delicious cheeseburger. Now, again, you know, a better analogy would be go to any used car lot and try and negotiate with a used car salesman. For whatever reason.
My God.
The dynamic of used car salesmen, I think
they get it.
And I'm sure that there are exceptions to the rules, but I think you need a degree in scumbag to be a used car salesman.
They have a very well-earned reputation. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So these are real dynamics that are out there.
I heard a very stranger Karen story if you want to hear it.
Oh, it's time for Shiya's even stranger Karen story. Please.
So I actually read about this, and I would have paid money to be a fly on the wall for this moment, okay? But apparently there was a young man who was on the subway sitting in one of the reserved seats for the handicapped, okay? Visibly looked like a young, strong, healthy young man, okay? But he's sitting in the reserved, cripple, handicap seat on the subway, and a very full car. And on comes a mom with a toddler, And she goes up and starts demanding that this young man get up from his seat so that she can sit down. And he says he's disabled. She's like, you're not disabled, blah, 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 and started apparently throwing a big-ass shit fit. So you know what the kid did? He reached down, pulled up his pant leg, took off his prosthetic leg, and started waving it in the woman's face, saying not a word, just let her continue to rant until she finally realized that he's holding up one of his legs. And then she got off at the next stop, which wasn't even her stop.
Listen, you know,
I would have loved to have seen that.
Some of it is just so off the fucking wall that you really have to just ask yourself, how the fuck did they even make it out of the house? How is it
I don't know
that they have somehow managed to exist for this extended period of time, and all of a sudden, we have now just realized... I mean, granted, listen, you can make a case that we all maybe at some point in time will have a Karen moment. I mean, I hope not.
I've had Karen moments.
I would, you know, I'm the kind of guy that, you know, if you start seeing Karen coming out on me, please take me out the fucking back and put me out of my misery and everyone else's. You know, I will fucking advocate for fucking murder in this particular dynamic. Because is it really murder if I say, hey man, listen, do me this courtesy? Now you can make the argument, well, you know, assisted suicide is, you know, in this particular case, it's a lesser of two fucking evils.
Honey, if
you know what I mean?
Karen, I will gladly.
Because guess what?
Courtesy.
If I have the viral bug known as Karen, I guarantee you, mixed with wolf blood, it's gonna mutate into something fucking horrible, man. So horrible. So I'm gonna do the Frankenstein thing, and I'm gonna say, no, listen, it's a monster. Put it down. Okay.
I will put you down if you put me down, too, if I turn into a Karen.
Well, I mean, again, that's going to be really difficult considering, you know, the dynamics of you as a witch. I don't even want, you know what, I don't even want to have that conversation.
Karen witch.
I just had a flash of that, and that's even more terrifying. So, yeah, you know what, maybe not. Maybe I have to stick around just to be the counter to your apocalyptic scenario. I don't know.
What would be the greater apocalypse? A wolf Karen or a witch Karen?
Probably a witch Karen.
You think?
Yeah.
Wow, you have such confidence in my ability.
Well, no, it just, by dynamic, you know, a witch has a vagina has more power than a dick. So, yeah. There's my sarcastic twist on sexism. Truth, listen.
Yeah, wars have been fought over our vaginas.
A witch is going to always have the upper hand. Okay, men, fucking, you know, embrace it. Okay, get with it. Swallow that bitter pull. You know, swallow it, man. Because the dynamics are not the same. All right, it's not the same world that we live in. Women have fucking had enough. Okay, and really, it's only a matter of time that it's, you know, we think it's bad now. You know, I joke about the canceling thing. And, you know, I talk in sarcastic terms. I'm not advocating for fucking assisted suicide. I'm not truly saying, hey, go out and murder somebody in the context of the lesser evil. Okay? No, it's not the Deadpool go back in time and kill baby Hitler. Okay? It just doesn't work that way. But we can joke about it and we can have fun with it to a certain degree. But again, simple truth. You know what I mean? Women are becoming more empowered. Okay, we spent thousands of years attempting to keep them uneducated and pregnant and basically docile. Yeah. And nature has a way it says, yeah, no,
I won't do what you told me to.
So personally, I think the Karen virus is symptomatic of this development. This is mutation at its purest form. So not unlike Frankenstein, you're going to see all kinds of fucked up variations. It's also why a lot of us, white men in particular, are going to get canceled in mass. You know what I mean? It's going to be the Karen plague to some degrees, but these are all symptomatic of that dynamic because men have just fucked it up for too long. We have.
Yep.
Let's call it for what it is. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily that it was you.
But I have to say, I am really thankful.
But I had a part in it. You know, I know I did.
As an individual, though.
Okay.
Because I listened to you talking on the podcast. I was listening to you doing a counseling appointment the other day, and I was like, holy shit. How fucking lucky am I to have somebody who truly gets it? You're not a woman, but you get it. You get, as much as a man can get it, fairness, you get it.
The only reason I get it is through many years of many fucked up mistakes.
But you get it now, and I'm glad.
I also had some advantages, and I will be very honest and upfront about that. I had a mother who was definitely not we'll call it a kind of absentee parent. She was very much involved, very vocal about certain dynamics of things, made it a point, to the best of our ability, to at least plant the seeds. Now, granted, context being what it is, sometimes it takes many years for the seeds to sprout and actually grow, and then even more time for them actually to grow to the degree that they actually can bear fruit. It just is what it is. There's no real consistent dynamic with it because it's relevant to the individual. But with that being said, having that base, that framework, those seeds in there allowed me, when I was able to understand certain dynamics. Some of it's also, to be blunt, the dynamic of having spent many years as a single parent.
Yeah.
Having to raise a child basically by myself. I had help to different degrees, don't get me wrong, but, you know what I mean? My son not only he had an absentee mother who basically did the Jekyll and Hyde thing. When she wasn't around, it wasn't as bad. When she showed up, it would be, absolute fucking chaos. Yeah. But all those experiences, all those analogies really only, again, set the stage. It wasn't until I really took a deeper look at myself to understand what my patterns are. You hear the term, and Shiya talks about all the time, shadow work. We have to do our own shadow work to understand our dynamics, our part within any particular situation, scenario, whatever you want to call it again.
Yep.
And that aspect, at least to some degree, was based off of conditioning. And that conditioning was reflective of many of the toxic male traits, conditioning patterns. Again, a whole bunch of adjectives and adverbs and words in general that you can slap back and forth, and they all come back to the same place. It's learned behavior. But reinforced.
You, much like me, had to deal with some traumatic conditioning elements from, shall we say, the patriarchy in our lives.
Yes.
But we had, both of us, through our environment, through your mom, stuff like that, mitigating factors that we chose to listen to, hear, heed, and maybe absorb more later in life, that were part of our conditioning elements that showed us the disparity between what the patriarchy wanted us to believe and what's really boots on the ground.
Well, and I don't want this to sound too flippant, but again, if I'm going to be honest, for myself, as a wolf, I've always loved women. So it wasn't hard for me to want to understand women. You know what I mean? And here comes the sarcastic analogy. You know what I mean? As a predator, as a hunter, what better way to get that which you want to eat than to understand it? You understand their grazing patterns. You understand how they run here and run there, what they like to eat, what they don't like to eat, what time they show up, what time they leave, how fast can they run, and do they have horns or sharp claws or teeth that theoretically can shred my testicles if I come in at the wrong angle. Listen, these are the dynamics that men are conditioned with. And listen, again, I say it within the humorous dynamic, aka, yes, I love women. I love eating women. Okay, I said it. Okay, and I learned what women like. And when women are happy and you give them what they like, they tend to talk to you. Yeah. And they will share the inside information that's usually only available within the woman's club. So You know, I got to literally be the dick on the wall for a lot of those women type of shows.
Well, there you go.
But it wasn't, again, really until I could truly appreciate some of the dynamic burdens, we'll call them, some of the blaringly blatant imbalances within the framework, not only of society, but within cultural dynamics too. You know what I mean? Having grown up seeing my father be an abusive drunk, who's, you know, his basic, you know, go-to was, you know, the old Sean Connery, like, well, sometimes you gotta smack a woman to keep her in line. Oh yeah, well, that works real well.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, again, not having a really good role model in that dynamic definitely creates a bit of conflict. But there are even stranger things. You know what I mean? As we go down the road, you know, I found out that as a wolf, I had certain skills. And if I used those particular skills in particular ways, shit would go the way that I wanted it to.
Particular witches end up very happy.
Well, it's no coincidence that I have danced within this framework for many years. There was a point in my time when I was younger that I actually belonged to a coven and was a little bit deeper in some aspects of things. But again, if I'm going to be honest, it was really more, again, based off of the dynamic of the woman I was with.
Yeah.
I had been exposed to those dynamics by my mother and my great-grandmother, so I already had a framework, a working knowledge, if you will, and obviously my own gifts that were passed on to me by my mother. But I was still young. So, again, the learning curve being what it is, sometimes, and with the earlier analogy, I wore the pagan mask. I played the part. I danced with Dionysus.
But will you dress up like Pan for me?
Fuck you.
That's the whole point.
Fuck you.
That's
Fuck
the point.
you.
Yes.
Nope,
exactly.
nope. Hey, listen, quick little thing. Gary says, Karen Blood and Wolf creates a demonic wolf-like creature with a strong, sarcastic bent. Yeah, you know, that's definitely viable. And my brother Jonathan, the J Phoenix, just got out of his first board meeting and is now the vice board president. Congratulations, my brother.
Or my sympathies. Take your pick.
Well,
Both
that's yet to be determined.
Applicable.
It's a learning experience. So you take what it is.
That's great.
And yeah, congratulations. It was 110 fucking degrees out there today. Hey, but there's nothing going on with our climate, right? It's a big fucking hoax.
No such thing as
It's a bunch of leftist Democrats that want to raise your gasoline prices. There's nothing to see. Okay? There's nothing out of whack with our planet, right? It's only 110 fucking degrees.
Don't look at the man
in Oklahoma. Okay? Now somebody said, well, it's always been fucking. Yeah. Not like this.
Not like this.
All right. I got friends out in the UK. All right. They're fucking melting out there. Even stranger things. It has been, the past couple days, the hottest, okay, ever recorded, okay, again, in the framework of recorded history in England, UK, the hottest it's ever fucking been.
There's no such thing as climate change.
Yeah, no, there's nothing going on. Nothing to see here. It's all fake news. Okay? Even stranger things. Right, and brother, you're right. It was rarely that hot there, and not this consistently, and it's now becoming a consistent context all over the place. Anybody that was out in the Pacific Northwest, I believe it was last year, they got nailed with these ridiculously insane heat waves in places that, you know, it usually doesn't get below freezing, let alone get up to 90 degrees. Okay? And put that in a framework context. We're talking about places that 15 years ago would not get below freezing. AKA, there was permanent ice. Guess what?
Baby.
not only is there no longer any ice there,
Yep.
but they're going out and sunbathing in that shit. Okay? It's never happened before. Not within the scope of human existence. And as Crystal says, yeah, life finds a way.
I need one of those news announcements because I have breaking news.
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
Tick, 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 tick. Hit me. Breaking news.
Breaking news. Ashley Hart has now reported that if they mention the wolf or the witch, Shiya or the wolf, on their first order, they will get 25% off.
All right. So what you're really saying here is
Ashley,
you better hurry up and get out there and buy something from Ashley before she fucking rescinds that offer.
She is offering 25% off to anybody that mentions me or the wolf on their first order.
Okay.
25% off.
Facebook.com/HeartsCreations.
HARTS.
Creations. Dream catchers with intention.
Yes.
Hey, listen, we can't say enough good things. Yeah.
And got that, and I'm like,
can't say enough good things about her, so I do not mind
breaking news.
Dancing back to that.
Yes, breaking news.
So we're going to take a quick break. Gonna just do. We're gonna do the Shiya track. We're gonna do her Desperate Mind. Just as a couple of minutes segue to entertain you with a little bit of music. This is the track that I wrote. The words are from a friend of ours, Suzanne Kuhn.
Yep.
And it is sung by the witch herself, Lady Shiya. Yes, and we recorded this literally in our fucking bedroom.
Well, our bedroom's
For those of you who don't know, I converted half of our bedroom into a recording studio.
And then I converted the sun porch into an altar room /
Yes, and she converted the into a production studio /
altar room
sacrificial altar
/
portal to alternate dimensions.
An alternate universe.
Yeah, Brother John, he's coming out September. Really great about seeing you as well, my friend.
Yes.
You're heading out to dinner, so go enjoy, man. Go enjoy. So yeah, listen, we're gonna take a quick break, and then we're gonna come back. We're gonna pop this track. Again, within the spirit of female empowerment, I thought this was an incredibly powerful track. Nothing to do with anything that I did musically, but really the dynamic, not only of the words that Suzanne wrote, but in Shiya's interpretation of such, because it really is a dynamic about the female experience to some degrees, how women are not only objectified, but the consequences, the side effects, the ramifications.
The spin.
And, I mean, since it is really your premiere track, is there anything else you would like to add to that before we go to the tape?
I think that it's a great way to, understand that we're not alone when we feel this way. And all women feel this way at some point. Just another piece of ass.
There you go.
We've got to figure out a way to let go of that and get out of the spin.
But you are definitely not just another piece of... I mean, you are a piece of ass, but I mean, you're not just another
I'm not just
piece of ass.
There you go. So yes, me singing.
So yes, for your enjoyment, Her Desperate Mind, as sung by Lady Shiya, and we'll be back in approximately 3.5 minutes. So we'll be right back. So yeah, that was her Desperate Mind as sung by the beautiful lady Shiya.
Aww.
Yes, I'm emotionally compromised. But that's okay. I'm allowed to be. It's my fucking show. Ha 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 ha.
So I have a fun Stranger Things story that's taken from when I was about 11 years old.
You tell.
So I was very fortunate to have been able to go on an overseas trip with my parents, and in doing that, we went to England, and then we went over to Paris. And while we're running around Paris, we're on a bus, and this was like I said, it was in the early '80s in that time, and kind of the punk rock thing was new, but people were coming out with different colored hair and stuff like that, and you would see that once in a while, but I was definitely more protected away from a lot of those elements and didn't get to see a lot of them. When we got to Paris, we're riding the bus and we're on the back of the bus, and I look back and I see this guy with bright green hair. I mean, bright green, like the things that back then it wasn't something you would do very often. Nowadays, we have all kinds of color hair, but back then it was unusual. And he was wearing a full three-piece suit and carrying a briefcase. And that just struck me as the weirdest thing I'd ever seen, that there was this dude with this punk rock hairstyle, bright green hair, and a full three-piece suit and a briefcase. And at that point, it made such an impression on me because it was a stranger thing to see at that point, to realize judging people by their appearances was a bad thing to do. And learning that at about 10, 11 years old stuck with me my whole life. That one stranger thing of seeing that juxtaposition of somebody in a full three-piece suit and a briefcase and punk rocker hair. And it's like, you can't judge this dude. You know, he's wearing two different things. You never know. And that made me start realizing people were a lot more than what they appeared to be.
See, unfortunately, my memorable experience on the bus did not have any such positive effect. It was basically an old wino came on the bus, took his pants off, and took a big steaming shit literally in the middle of the aisle.
Okay, that's definitely a stranger thing.
Yeah.
So
literally.
what happened?
Nothing. People were too afraid. There was some whispering. Somebody may have, made an audible gagging noise.
Uh-huh.
But at the time, I think I was 10. You know what I mean? And I can't remember why I was on this particular bus, but I remember I had one or two. It may have been that we had just caught the local downtown bus to go someplace because, back in the day, there, again, taxis, especially, unless you lived in a major city, weren't really an available thing. So you had to catch a bus, really if you wanted to go anywhere. So. Yeah. I forget where the fuck we were going, but, we were young. Couldn't have been more than 10 years old. And just seeing this guy just drop his pants and just take a big shit in front of everybody with no cares. I mean, again, from a child's perspective,
That's fucked up.
It's fucked up. In retrospect, he was probably hammered out of his fucking mind. Now, I will say that, that definitely, again, as a child, I've seen people shit themselves numerous times for numerous reasons over the years. I've shit myself numerous times for numerous reasons throughout the years. And, in full disclosure, those moments in my life usually were because I was so fucking hammered out, drunk, that basically, bowel control was not an option. You know what I mean? It just wasn't.
Get up on it.
Okay, I can say that, jokingly. I always like to use the Game of Thrones line because I think it's a fucking great one. Giant Spain, he just comes up, which one of you fucking cowards shit in my pants?
Yep, I love that one. Absolutely.
What a great line. I wish I had known that. Really, because that would have just been so powerful to basically just shit yourself and then just look at the people around you and challenge them. Which one of you just shit in my pants?
Well,
That's just, that is like, that's a Kodak moment. At least for me.
On a non-shitty note, I'm going to go make some non-shitty food.
Go make me some food.
I'm going to go make some
All right.
food.
You know your place. I like that.
Well, you make me food, so you know your place.
I can joke around. Don't cancel me, please. I'm sorry, Ma.
So,
I say it in jest.
Chicken fried rice.
Ooh, that's right. I'm getting me some homemade chicken fried rice. No joke. This woman can fucking cook. So, yes, there are even stranger fucking things out there. And especially, in the dynamic now with technology. Every ridiculously crazy bullshit thing that you can imagine now hits the internet. You know what I mean? You can go on Reddit, you can go on YouTube, you can go to all kinds of different places and just type these words. That's fucked up. You'll get all kinds of interesting hits. Now, full disclosure, should you go venturing into this very dark forest, certain things, once you see it, you can't unsee. The visage, it will burn into you, okay? So, the first time, you see German Scheiser porn, which, for those of you who don't know, basically is when a guy lays down and a woman shits in his mouth. Okay? True thing. Now, there are a whole bunch of questions I personally have. Yeah, this is not usually your dinner conversation type of thing. Hell, it's not usually even, your church conversation. You know what I mean? That somewhere, somebody is shitting, literally shitting in somebody's mouth, and said person is really enjoying it. Now, again, you could make the case and say, hey, to each their own. He's not hurting anybody. She's not hurting anybody. You know what I mean? It's a shitty world. So what's a little bit of shit shared between two consenting adults? But even stranger things suggest that, yes, it's absolutely fucking disgusting. But that's the point. These are the even stranger things. This is the reality that we live in. That somewhere, somebody came up with it, and then other people thought it was a good idea, and have continued with said dynamics. Now, again, for me personally, humor, I find, is the only defense against the madness. So yes, I will talk in very, very visual dynamics. Oh, we're just talking about the pros and cons of, having somebody shit in your mouth, Jen. See? Perfect timing. You may now run away in horror. But to illustrate the point, okay, to that person, it's not strange. That's just what they're into. Now, again, there's obviously a fine line between dynamics of things. And I've made mention this before, what works for one person, obviously doesn't necessarily have to work for the next. But when we step outside and we take a look at these even stranger things, it can make some of the other dynamics less horrifying. Don't get me wrong. I am not suggesting, that this should somehow become the norm, because obviously we don't want to become so apathetic that people are just randomly walking up to each other on the street and shitting on each other. I don't think it's good for hygiene. It's probably really just not a good dynamic for children. And I'm sure somebody somewhere is going to want to cancel that shit. No pun intended. But when we frame it against some of the other dynamics, especially some of the more, let's call it for what it is, for some of the uglier dynamics. Me personally, I see the lesser evil dynamic if somebody is just, innocently shitting in somebody else's mouth versus a crazed Karen losing her mind because they're black children in the community pool. Okay? You don't have to agree with either dynamic, okay? And I'm not saying that to suggest that racism somehow is okay. I'm not. But I'm also a realist to the degree that people are going to feel what they're going to feel. That's okay. You're allowed to feel it. You're even allowed to think it. You're just not allowed to act on it. When you act on it, that's when you cross the fucking line. So, what's stranger? You know what I mean? a complete lack of any semblance of humanity within the framework that, children can't simply be children and enjoy a pool regardless of whatever fucking color their skin is? Or a woman somewhere shitting in some fucking hedge fund guy's mouth for $400 an hour? Hey, listen, everybody's got to make a living, right? But even if this is your dynamic that you want to share for free, maybe you go on shittysingles.com. It's a community forum where people who like shitting each other can get together and bond and connect without the stigma and stereotyping that goes within that shitty dynamic. These are the things that make us go, does he have a point? Is this going somewhere besides the shitty road that it appears to be? Maybe, maybe not. Those of you who know me know that I tend to lean with the philosophy of, hey, take what you need, leave the rest behind. It's okay. You don't have to like it. You don't have to understand it. Hopefully, it'll make you think. Even more hopefully, it'll make you laugh. Okay? And if you want to, think about even stranger things, and again, we'll stay within the pornographic context because, hey, you know what I mean? Sex is one of the most prevalent dynamics in our world. It fucks everything up in so many beautiful different ways. But even stranger, that there's an industry. And we'll just recall them as 2 sex lines. Basically, they're numbers that you can call. Din, 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 din. And you can get somebody on the phone and you can talk whatever. You can talk about your dick. You can talk about this. You can talk about that. So it's basically a sex line, okay? That for however much a minute, you can get somebody on the phone and do whatever you got to do. Now, here's the irony. This is the even stranger thing. Okay. And it's documented. Most, if not all, of the quote-unquote women on those other lines, you want to talk about false advertising, okay? Because anybody who's ever seen those sex lines, it's a beautiful woman. Her legs are spread wide. She's like, oh, baby, 1-900, fuck me. You know what I mean? And men, being the fucking idiots that they are, like, oh, yeah, shit. All right, well, you know what I mean? I don't actually have to come out of my house, and I don't actually get to see what a fucking disgusting fucking slob I am. So we'll just get on the phone, and nobody's looking. I can hide here. And, yeah. But the reality on the other end of the line, it's not that beautiful woman with her legs spread. It's, fucking Kathy Bates from Misery sitting on her couch watching Jerry Springer and eating copious amounts of fried foods. Okay? And she's going to say anything and everything that you want to hear. She's making money. And all she's doing is just sitting there, and inside, she's laughing. That's right, guys. She's laughing at you. We're all laughing at you. Now, have I, with just a slew of words, just completely gutted an innocent industry? I don't know. Maybe. Personally, I don't really feel bad about that. Again, as a public service, men, all that shit is bullshit. It's illusion, man. It's not real. Even stranger, men still haven't figured it out. That's why we still have strip clubs. Okay? And Shiya and I were joking about this. Okay? Because, certain dynamics, especially within sexuality, gets really fucking strange, man. Really, really strange. Sexuality is that thing that spins people out. Everybody's pointing their finger. Oh! They lose their fucking minds. You know what I mean? And it's really one of our core dynamics. It's how we, as a species, continue. So, AKA, if nobody's fucking nobody, there is no human race. So, by default, we gotta fuck. That is what it is. But we can fucking style. And obviously, to some degree, there's been so much fucking going on for so long that some of us are compelled to get creative. And that creativity, well, that's always a context of perception. What's freaky for one person is, not to the next. Gary's got an interesting Stranger Things type story. He was married to his first wife, and one weekend we had my daughters, and the last night before bringing them home, he was sleeping in the kids' room with and we'll have to wait for the rest of the story, because obviously we got the context delay thing going on. You know what I mean? Which happens. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, when you're doing live podcast and trying to communicate between the multiple platforms, we got half of Gary's story. So I'll go back and I'll do Gary's story when I actually get the rest of Gary's story. Because it's not fair. It's a half-assed story. You know what I mean? Where is this going? He's light sleeping at home. He's sleeping in the kids' room. You know what I mean? This could be like the Big Bad Wolf shows up. This could be like, Dwayne Johnson as the Tooth Fairy shows up in the fucking tutu. You know what I mean? Who the fuck knows where this is going? Now, I have faith in Gary that he's got something to share, and we're going to hold out for that. But, again, how we perceive things, and I talk about this a lot, that perception really defines the element. It's not always right or wrong. It's not always about strange or stranger. It's, again, those little dynamics. And Charlie was talking about it earlier, and I tend to do these big, long, sweeping Spanish Inquisition kind of, start over here, come back around, take a left turn at Albuquerque, and then, now, finally, we come back and we close the circle. How we choose to embrace other people's strangeness and again, that doesn't mean you have to lay down and let them shit in your mouth, but we can at least have a conversation. You know what I mean? What does shit taste like? I don't know. I've never eaten shit. I don't know what it tastes like. There's part of me that's actually kind of curious. Is it chalky? Is it kind of like Caddyshack? Does it look like a Baby Ruth bar? Does it have corn in it? You know what I mean? This could be some really good comedy. I'm a comedy guy. So shitty comedy, hey, they go hand in hand. But some people, and again, in fairness, not everybody finds the same thing funny. Just like, I like a chocolate shake. Some people like vanilla. Some people like pistachio. And then, of course, obviously, some people really like a shitty shake. If that's your thing, well, again, context. You're doing it in your home and, there's nobody else to see or freak out or disgust in the process. You know what? Can't really begrudge that. God knows there's much more horrible things going on in the world. However, you know what I mean? If I'm in my local restaurant sitting down for a hard-earned meal, and you decide that's the time, you want to drop some literal shit, you want to get swifty and shit on the floor, yeah, I'm not going to have the same open-mindedness. Because it's the context. Situational. Now, it's shitty all around, because we're talking about shit. But these are also elements that we can laugh at. Anybody that's watched South Park knows that there is a literal piece of shit character. That he's a talking piece of shit that engages with the kids and goes on adventures. Okay? He's real within the framework of that reality. Now, me personally, I'm going to take a talking piece of shit every day versus fucking Cthulhu or Yog-Sothoth or any of the old gods to kind of, dance it back to the earlier conversation. I can deal with a talking piece of shit. I deal with talking pieces of shit, well, not every day. Luckily, I'm blessed now that I don't have to go out there and deal with the talking shit. But I think every one of you has to, at some degree, we all, to different degrees, have to deal with literally talking pieces of shit. So what is the difference if it's a piece of shit that, say, looks like a Charlie Manson versus, the chunky brown turd? It's still shit. You know what I mean? I would feel comfortable in saying that, elephant shit isn't the same as rabbit shit. So we have variations in shit. And then even stranger things. Anybody that has a dog or has interacted with dogs know that dogs tend to like to eat shit. Generally their own shit. Not sure why. Don't have a real answer for that. But they'll wag their tail and they'll love you, and then they'll come up after chowing down on that big noogie and then want to give you a big, shitty kiss. But even stranger thing, you know what I mean? As a man and as a lover, I'm not against, per se, especially if, if I'm downstairs working on some stuff and, maybe a little bit of a little butt play. With that being said, and again, in the fairness of full disclosure, you know what I mean, men, you know what I mean? If you're down there, not much of a separation between the love hole and the shithole. So, hey, a flick of the tongue, an orgasm or two later, it's a real thing, boys and girls. But even stranger, okay, obviously within the dynamic, many would qualify that as, somehow being strange. Well, why is that strange? Is it strange for two men? Because I'm sorry, and let's have an honest conversation here, in the framework of men-on-men sexual dynamics, there's only two holes to deal with. So you're either taking it in the ass or you're taking it in the mouth. They've been doing it for a long time. They seem fine with it. You don't hear them, granted, you might hear them complaining behind closed doors. You know what I mean? I don't know about you. There are times just taking a shit that I want to cry. I just couldn't be that guy. And it doesn't mean that I begrudge homosexuality. I'm not afraid of it. You know what I mean? Just not my thing. I choose not to. But again, if that works for somebody else. But within that shittier dynamic, there's a whole culture, a whole lifestyle that's literally centered around that. Anybody who's ever delved into the world of pornography know that ass stuff is, it's like top of the charts, you know what I mean? And it's a conditioned dynamic. But I think it's fair to say, ladies, that most of you don't want something shoved in your ass. So it isn't a gay or straight thing. It's just simply, hey, that's my asshole. Please don't violate it. But some people like it. And again, context being what it is, hey, in the privacy of your own home, you have a conversation, he or she is like, hey, that's fine. I don't mind. Please come on in. There's a big difference between that and being in prison and getting jumped in the shower and then forcibly raped. Okay? Not cool. Not a fun, pleasant, happy thing. But those are the dynamics. So that perceptional thing, that context thing, you can take something and say, hey, nothing wrong with it. But if you put it in play like this, it now becomes fucked up. Now, is there a moral to my story? Probably not. Those of you, again, that know me, I like to take, again, the road less traveled. Brother Gary, listen, thank you again. I was just trying to, again, wait. So before you go, I am going to finish up Gary's story. So, he starts off, Stranger Things type story. He was married to his first wife one weekend, had my daughters, and the last night before bringing them home, I was sleeping in the kids' room with my middle and youngest daughters. My oldest was in my wife and mine bed, and my wife was on the couch in the middle of the night. We all heard a disembodied growling that woke us all. after dropping the kids off, my wife at the time said that she saw a very dark figure, blacker than the darkness of the house, in the middle of the night. So, again, sometimes the even stranger things have darker elements. Anybody who, had that creepy jeepy, kind of hair standing on the back of your fucking neck kind of moment. Anybody who's had a bad nightmare, you know what I mean? Their dynamics, again, of experience that, again, leave a different impact. They have a different flavor, different smell, even if you will, not to play off on the shitty dynamic as much anymore. But our perceptions of it, our experiences, again, are based upon all these little variables of dynamics. So when we can look beyond the context of strange, because strange, again, is relevant, you know what I mean? Is it strange to just want to love people? Is it strange to, run around the street naked? I don't know. Probably, again, simple dynamic. You could do, like the Family Feud, we surveyed 100 people, survey says, and you may or may not get a consensus. But understanding it, at least in the basic dynamics, again, doesn't mean that you have to kick it in the ass to be able to understand it. But certain dynamics, and I think there's a case to be made, that without that direct experience, it's very difficult to understand and relate to. AKA, for women, the process of birth, carrying a child, and then obviously, the whole labor, et cetera thing, is a dynamic that is unique, exclusively unique, at least as far as today and the foreseeable future, to women. So, as a man, we men, we can intellectualize, we can sympathize to certain degrees, and we can obviously empathize. Wow, that looks fucking painful. Jesus Christ, I wouldn't want to try and shove that out a hole in my body. But we cannot connect with it in the same way, because by default, we cannot experience it. And it may seem even stranger to simplify it in that context, but it's an honest context. Men, I think, can relate that, if you've ever taken a shot to the testicles, that's a fucking unique experience. Now, I'm sure, and I've heard women say, hey, when we get kicked in the coochie, I'm sure it's not a fun experience. But until you've had your testicles smashed in like fucking whack-a-mole and experienced that deep, crippling, kind of searching for God moment when everything is just folding in on itself, yeah, that's a unique context. That is really exclusive to those of us who have testicles. Now, that's not to say that everybody with testicles has experienced it, but by default, you kind of need testicles. Now, some will use that argument, and I've heard it and seen it used in a dynamic that, well, you know what I mean, you got this and that. Yes, we have two biological contexts, men and women. It doesn't mean that people can't relate to certain things. They can't identify to whatever degrees. If they want to take a neutral context, I get it. Sexuality has been so fucking twisted and stuff like that, that for them, it is a safer place to be. It is an easier place to some degrees, instead of being forced into a particular framework. Or, again, the analogy, being, square peg, round hole. Now, again, that round hole is open to interpretation. See how I did that? Words do that. Words can give you all kinds of interesting variations, frameworks, and even stranger from there. But that aspect Also, too, and I hate to say it, and it is a fair dynamic. And again, it's not to take away from any sexuality. You want to identify as a beaver, that's fine. You're welcome to it. However, that doesn't make you the same, okay? And in fairness, that context is where it really becomes definitive, where we can say, okay, I can identify as a woman if I choose to. I can dye my hair. I can get breast implants. I can have my shit chopped off, turned inside out, and basically rearrange the package, the wrapper, as they say, to appear as a woman. I can go out there and I can suck dick and take it in the ass and take it in the flap. I can do all those things. But it does not make me a woman. Unfortunately. Again, it's not to take away from anybody that chooses to relate to that framework. But if we're going to be honest about it, and this is what I believe drives a lot of the conflict and the dynamic within the framework of sexuality and who people get to love and how they get to relate to it, that to some degrees it's gone way beyond even fucking Stranger Things, okay? It's gone into the land of the fucking ridiculous, okay? AKA, none of this shit has any business being framed or taught within young children, okay? It shouldn't. Children have enough fucking problems as it is without having other dynamics thrown into the mix just because somebody thinks that this is this or this is that, okay? It is a personal dynamic. And as a parent, I agree with that simple analogy that we shouldn't just force it just because it is, okay? But also in the same instance, okay, if somebody, and even if that's somebody who's younger, for whatever reason, chooses or feels within a particular dynamic, we don't have the right to dismiss it, and we don't have the right to try and force it into something else. Again, context being what it is, part of life is about the experience, okay? And I can tell you, having been a child and having raised a child, there's no quicker way to break a child than to try and, again, force the square, peg, round, hole analogy. It doesn't work. We know this historically, okay? Human history is littered with it. And none of these dynamics are new, okay? They go back all the way to the beginning. And we have now come to a point where that it has become so strange that now we can't even have a conversation about it. Now, again, I use these dynamics within the framework of comedy to try and have some of these conversations. And I recognize that depending upon your perspective, you can take anything out of context. You can say, well, it means that. He said this. No. I'm presenting different elements, different perspectives. Some of it obviously is different by my opinion and my experiences again. And again, I tend to take a conservative element within the framework of what we should expose our children to, only because I've seen the damage that it does to children. And it shouldn't be done. All right. Again, if we're going to do a better job for the future, we have to be honest. We have to have these honest conversations, however, how shitty it may or may not be. But we can take it. We can use it in the dynamic, and we can put it in the comedic thing. I talk about George Carlin a lot. He's somebody that, again, influenced me, not only the dynamic of comedy, but in the dynamic of looking at it from somebody else's perspective. Not to take this fucking one-sided, I know it all, but to really use the context of empathy to not only feel, but to connect those feelings with their reality, to understand to the best of my ability. And again, doesn't mean you have to agree, but if we're not willing to at least be open-minded to understanding, then by default, we are part of the problem. And in the simplest analogy, if we can't give other people that basic respect, how are we entitled to it? How can we, with a straight face, say anything within any dynamic? And I don't care what the fuck it is, because it's all based on that context. You can't cherry pick and say, well, this, okay, because somebody wrote it somewhere, said it somewhere, whatever. We're going to use this dynamic here because it suits our purposes. That's often referenced to, and it's a word I use a lot, it's semantics. But a better word that I use even more, it's bullshit. Okay? It's self-serving, and more times than not, it is hurtful. It is damaging. It is, in its purest form, evil, if you really think about it. Because what is the flip side? What is the contradiction to love? Well, it's hate. So anything that isn't done in love, by default, if we're going to keep it simple, must reflect the other side. Now, granted, again, there are layers of fucking evil. You know what I mean? You know, it's probably evil to, you know, be in an elevator with a bunch of people and to rip ass. That's fucking evil, man. Is it as evil as, you know, dropping an atomic bomb on a city? Yeah, no. It may be a shitty moment, but, you know, it isn't going to result with people's flesh being melted from their bodies. And that's not a political statement in regards to, you know, dropping the atomic bomb, okay? But in its simplest element, can anybody really get behind that? You know, you make a framework, well, it's war. Well, you know, we used to fight wars with fucking bows and arrows. We weren't melting cities. We just got better at fucking things up. Doesn't make it right. And I think most of us, and I feel pretty confident, and I'm going to close this out and go out on a limb, I don't think anybody really feels the context that they want a bomb dropped on them for any fucking reason. So, even stranger, if we can all agree, and just, you know, again, simple context, if we can all agree that we don't want an atomic bomb dropped on us and our flesh melted from our body, that we have to watch our children and loved ones melt like a fucking bad cartoon, why can't we get past easier, simpler things? It's a question, one that obviously isn't going to get answered, not at least within the framework of my hopes and expectations. But maybe it's a seed that's planted. Maybe, even stranger, is if we do have these conversations, as crazy as it may sound, as uncomfortable even to some degrees, and as shitty as it may sometimes be, that that's actually our best path forward. Not just for me, not just for you, for everyone. So with that being said, I'm going to close out tonight. Vanessa, I'm sorry that you just got here. We're getting ready to close out, but you are welcome to go back and listen to the show. We always keep it up on YouTube. It's one of the things that Shiya and again both believe in. It's why we do this and we keep it out there for free. But yeah, feel free to jump in. It was a bit of a shitty ride. You'll get what I mean if you go back and listen. Yeah, I'm just that guy. It's what I do. But that's who I am. So yes, again, thank you everybody for coming out as always. Know that you are loved. Shiya will be back. I may or may not. But Shiya will definitely be back tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for What the Fuck Wednesday. I think I may come out. Been doing a couple of readings here and there. But until next time, try and remember, there are even stranger things out there. Take care of each other, and we're going to close it out with one of my favorite tracks. I'm going to leave the Art for Autism thing up afterwards. This was a track that I wrote for a young person that I know. He's a great kid. His mother is a friend of ours, and it was really just, again, the dynamic of the struggles that he was going through and the disconnect. And the track simply is just like me. It is reflective of that struggle of being able to relate, that disconnect that we all go through, and the subsequent dynamic sometimes that come from that. So until next time, have a great one and enjoy, just like me.